Commander Zektar stood on the bridge of the massive Vorthan battlecruiser, watching the blue-green planet rotate slowly on the main screen. His 6 arms moved across different control panels, while his compound eyes analyzed the data streaming in from their long-range scanners. This system was marked as forbidden territory by the Galactic Council 300 cycles ago. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Voss, reported. The younger Vorthan's voice carried a note of concern. No ships have been authorized to enter this region of space. Zektar's mandibles clicked in annoyance. The Council fears shadows and old stories. Look at this planet, Voss. Perfect atmospheric composition, abundant water, fertile lands. And according to our scans, only a primitive species inhabits the surface. They have barely achieved basic spaceflight. The Vorthan Empire had been expanding for over 2,000 years, conquering world after world with their superior technology and massive fleets. Their warships could crack planets in half, their weapons could boil oceans, and their armies had never known defeat. The idea that a single world could pose any threat to their mighty armada was laughable. "Sir, the species calls themselves humans," Voss continued, reading from his scanner. "Their technology level appears to be several centuries behind our own. They use primitive chemical rockets and have only established small colonies on their moon and nearby planets." Zektar's 4 eyes gleamed with greed. Earth was exactly what the Vorthan Empire needed. Their homeworlds were becoming overcrowded, and this planet could house billions of their people. The humans would make excellent slaves, assuming any survived the initial conquest. "Have you located their military installations?" Zektar asked. "Yes, Commander. They have scattered defensive positions around their planet, but nothing that could threaten even our smallest patrol ships. Their weapons are still based on explosive projectiles and crude energy beams. Our shields could withstand their entire planetary defense network without strain." The Vorthan Armada consisted of 3,000 warships of various sizes. The largest, like Zektar's flagship, stretched over 10 kilometers in length and carried enough firepower to destroy continents. Even their smallest scouts were more advanced than anything the humans had ever built. "What about their space-based defenses?" Zektar inquired. Voss manipulated his console, bringing up a tactical display. "They have several space stations orbiting their planet, but these appear to be research facilities rather than military installations. We detect no significant weapons systems or shield generators." Perfect. Zektar had expected this would be an easy conquest, but the complete lack of proper defenses made it almost boring. Still, a victory was a victory, and claiming this world would earn him great honor in the eyes of the Vorthan High Command. "Begin the approach," he ordered. "All ships maintain battle formation. We will demonstrate the might of the Vorthan Empire to these humans and offer them one chance to surrender before we begin the bombardment." The massive fleet began moving toward Earth, their fusion drives creating brilliant points of light against the darkness of space. Each ship was a masterpiece of military engineering, covered in weapons arrays and protected by energy shields that could deflect anything the humans might throw at them. As they drew closer to Earth, Zektar noticed something strange. His long-range sensors were picking up unusual energy readings from the planet's surface and orbital space. The signatures didn't match any known human technology. "Voss, are you detecting these anomalous readings?" His lieutenant frowned at his instruments. "Yes, sir. There appear to be some kind of energy field surrounding the planet, but I cannot identify their source or purpose. They don't seem to be weapons or shields." Zektar dismissed the readings with a wave of one of his arms. "Probably some kind of primitive communication network. These species often develop crude energy transmission systems before they achieve proper spaceflight." The Armada continued its approach, now close enough to see Earth's continents clearly on their screens. The planet looked peaceful, almost defenseless. Zektar could see the lights of human cities twinkling like stars on the night side of the world. "Open a communication channel to the planet," Zektar commanded. Let us introduce ourselves to these humans. The communication officer worked at her console for several minutes before shaking her head. Sir, I'm having difficulty establishing a clear signal. There seems to be some kind of interference. Override it, Zektar snapped. Use full power if necessary. I'm trying, sir. But the interference is unlike anything I've encountered. It's almost as if something is actively blocking our transmissions. Before Zektar could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. The tactical officer's voice cut through the noise with urgent warnings. Commander! Multiple energy spikes detected throughout the system. Unknown contacts appearing on sensors. The main screen shifted to show space around Earth, and Zektar's blood ran cold. Hundreds of new contacts had appeared as if from nowhere, surrounding his fleet on all sides. The ships were unlike anything in the known galaxy, sleek, angular designs that seemed to bend light around them. Where did they come from? Zektar demanded. How did they get so close without being detected? I don't know, sir. One moment space was empty. The next moment they were there. The mysterious ships made no aggressive moves, simply maintaining their positions around the Vorthan Armada. They seemed to be waiting for something, but what? Sir, we're receiving a transmission, the communication officer reported. It's coming from one of the unknown vessels. Put it through, Zektar ordered, his voice tighter than before. The main screen flickered, then displayed the image of a human. The creature looked remarkably ordinary, bipedal with soft-looking skin and no visible natural weapons or armor. But there was something in its eyes that made Zektar uncomfortable. A cold intelligence that suggested these beings were far more dangerous than their appearance suggested. Greetings, the human said, its voice calm and measured. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered restricted space without authorization. Zektar straightened to his full imposing height. I am Commander Zektar of the Vorthan Imperial Navy. This system is no longer restricted. We claim it by right of conquest for the Vorthan Empire. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. I'm afraid that's not possible. This system is under the protection of humanity, and we do not recognize your claim. You dare defy the might of the Vorthan Empire? Zektar's voice rose in anger. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Our fleet could reduce your planet to ash. Many have tried, Chen replied simply. None have succeeded. Impossible. Our sensors show that your species has barely achieved basic spaceflight. How could you possibly threaten our Armada? For the first time, Admiral Chen smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Appearances can be deceiving, Commander. Perhaps you should have paid more attention to why this system was declared forbidden. Zektar felt a chill run through his body. What do you mean? 300 years ago, the Draconian Empire sent a fleet of 5,000 ships to conquer Earth. They were considered the most powerful military force in the galaxy at that time. Their ships were larger and more advanced than yours. The human paused, letting that information sink in. What happened to them? Zektar asked, though he dreaded the answer. They learned that humans do not surrender, Chen replied. And they discovered why our world was placed off limits to all galactic civilizations. Before Zektar could respond, his tactical officer cried out in alarm. Sir, energy readings are spiking throughout the system. Something is happening to the space around us. On the main screen, Zektar could see that the space around his fleet was beginning to shimmer and distort, like heat waves rising from hot metal. The stars themselves seemed to be bending and twisting. What is this? He demanded. Admiral Chen's image remained steady on the screen. This is why Earth is forbidden territory, Commander. Humanity has had 3 centuries to prepare for visitors like you. We learned from our encounter with the Draconians, and we made certain that no alien fleet would ever threaten our world again. The distortions in space were growing stronger. Zektar's sensors were showing impossible readings, gravity fields that shouldn't exist, energy patterns that defied known physics, spatial anomalies that seemed to fold reality in on itself. "You're bluffing," Zektar said, but his voice lacked conviction. No species could control forces like this. "The Draconians said the same thing," Chen replied. "Right before their entire fleet vanished from existence. They were erased so completely that not even their quantum signatures remained." Zektar's hands moved frantically over his controls. "All ships, prepare for immediate retreat. Maximum power to engines." But his fleet wasn't responding. The fusion drives that should have pushed his ships away from Earth were functioning, but the vessels weren't moving. They were trapped in whatever field the humans had generated. "Sir," Voss called out in panic, "the navigation systems are malfunctioning. Our position readings are impossible. According to sensors, we're in 17 different locations simultaneously." The human ships surrounding the Vorthon fleet began to pulse with an eerie light. As they did, the spatial distortions around Zekatar's Armada intensified. Ships began to flicker in and out of existence, phasing between dimensions like ghosts. "How are you doing this?" Zekatar demanded. Admiral Chen's smile grew wider. "Humanity learned long ago that the universe is far stranger and more malleable than most species realize. We've had centuries to study forces that others consider impossible or mythical. Time, space, reality itself. These are just tools to be used when your species' survival is at stake. The Galactic Council will not stand for this," Zektar threatened. "They will send fleets to avenge us." "The Council knows exactly what happens to those who threaten Earth," Chen replied. "Why do you think they declared our system forbidden? They're not trying to protect us, Commander. They're trying to protect everyone else from learning what we're capable of." The distortions were becoming unbearable. Zektar could see his ships stretching and contracting like rubber, their hulls bending in directions that shouldn't exist. His crew was screaming in terror as reality twisted around them. "Please," he begged, "we'll withdraw. We'll never return." "I'm afraid it's too late for that," Chen said, her voice almost gentle now. "You crossed into the Forbidden Zone, Commander. The rules were established long ago. No one leaves to spread word of what they've seen here." The last thing Commander Zektar saw was Admiral Chen's face on his screen, her expression shifting from stern resolve to something that might have been pity. Then the universe folded in on itself, and the Vorthon Armada disappeared from existence as completely as if it had never been built. In the empty space where 3,000 warships had been just moments before, only the mysterious human vessels remained. They held their positions for several minutes, their sensors sweeping the area to ensure that no trace of the invading fleet remained. Then, as silently as they had appeared, the human ships faded from sight, returning to whatever hidden dimensions they called home. Earth continued its peaceful rotation, showing no sign that one of the galaxy's most powerful fleets had just been completely erased from reality. On distant Vorthon worlds, families would wait in vain for news from their loved ones in the Armada. Official records would show that the fleet had simply vanished during a routine patrol mission in an empty sector of space. No one would ever know they had discovered the Forbidden World, and no one would ever learn what terrible fate had befallen them. The secret of Earth's defenses remained safe, as it had for 3 centuries. And in the depths of space, other alien civilizations continued to avoid the small yellow star and its mysterious third planet, never knowing how close they came to sharing the Vorthon Armada's fate simply by venturing too close to humanity's hidden fortress. The Forbidden Zone remained forbidden, and the humans preferred it that way. 3 months after the Vorthon Armada's disappearance, the Galactic Council chambers buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in their designated areas, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and electronic signals that the universal translators worked overtime to process. High Counselor Veltar, a tall, crystalline being whose body reflected light in prismatic patterns, called for order. The ancient Velnari had served on the council for over 8 centuries and had witnessed many crises, but nothing quite like this. "Fellow councilors," Veltar began, his voice resonating through the chamber like distant thunder, "we are gathered here to address the disappearance of the Vorthan Imperial Fleet. As you all know, 3,000 ships vanished without a trace while conducting what their government claims was a routine patrol mission." Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Everyone knew the official Vorthan story was false, but proving it was another matter entirely. Councillor Crix of the Zephyrian Coalition stood up, his insectoid features twitching with agitation. "High Councillor, our intelligence network suggests the Vorthan fleet was not on a routine patrol. We have evidence they were planning to invade the forbidden system designated as Sol 3. A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Sol 3, Earth, was a name that struck fear into the hearts of even the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. "That's impossible," protested Councillor Thane, the Vorthan representative. "The Empire would never violate Council sanctions. The Sol system has been forbidden for 3 centuries. High Councillor Veltar raised one of his crystal appendages for silence. "Councillor Crix, what evidence do you present?" The Zephyrian's compound eyes glittered as he activated a holographic display. "Our deep space monitoring stations detected massive gravitational disturbances in the Sol system exactly 47 hours before the Vorthan fleet was reported missing. The energy signatures were unlike anything we've seen since..." He paused dramatically. "Since the Draconian incident 300 years ago." The chamber fell into complete silence. Every being present knew the story of the Draconian Empire's fate, though most preferred not to think about it. "Furthermore," Crix continued, "we intercepted long-range communications from the Vorthan fleet just before they vanished. The transmissions were heavily encrypted, but our codebreakers managed to decrypt fragments. The Vorthans were definitely approaching the Sol system with hostile intent." Councillor Thane's exoskeleton darkened with embarrassment and fear. "Even if that were true, which I neither confirm nor deny, surely the Council should investigate what happened to our people. 3,000 ships don't just disappear." High Councillor Veltar's prismatic body dimmed with what might have been sorrow. "Councillor Thane, perhaps you should learn the full history of why the Sol system was declared forbidden. It might help you understand why the Council will not be launching any investigation." The High Councillor gestured, and the chamber's main holographic display activated, showing a star map with the Sol system highlighted in ominous red. The Draconian Empire was the most powerful force in the known galaxy 3 centuries ago. Their technology surpassed our own. Their fleets numbered in the tens of thousands, and their warriors were considered unbeatable. They decided to expand into what they considered an insignificant system inhabited by a primitive species called humans. The display shifted to show the massive Draconian fleet as it had appeared before the incident. 5,000 enormous warships bristling with weapons that could shatter moons. The Draconians expected easy conquest. The humans had barely achieved spaceflight and possessed no apparent defenses that could threaten even a single Draconian vessel. The Empire's best strategists calculated that the entire campaign would take less than a week. Veltar's voice grew quieter, more ominous. Instead, the entire Draconian fleet simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. Our sensors detected impossible gravitational anomalies, spatial distortions that shouldn't be possible according to known physics, and energy readings that defied every scientific principle we understand. The display showed sensor readings from that long-ago day. Reality itself seemed to twist and bend around Earth before the Draconian signals simply stopped. When we sent investigation teams to determine what had happened, they found no debris, no energy signatures, no quantum traces. The Draconian fleet had been removed from existence so completely that the universe had no memory they had ever existed. Young Counselor Myra of the Terrellian Republic raised a tentacle nervously. "Hi, Counselor. Surely you don't believe the humans were responsible? They were barely capable of reaching their own moon at that time." Veltar's crystalline features shifted into what might have been a grim smile. That, Counselor Myra, was exactly what the Draconians believed, and therein lay their fatal error. The display changed again, showing Earth as it appeared to long-range sensors, a peaceful blue world with no obvious defenses. Our xenobiologists have studied humanity for centuries, though always from a safe distance. They are a remarkable species in many ways. Most civilizations develop along predictable paths. They advance their technology gradually, expand cautiously, and seek to avoid conflict whenever possible. Veltar paused, letting his words sink in. Humans are different. When faced with extinction, they don't surrender, negotiate, or flee. They adapt, they evolve, they find ways to survive that no other species would even consider possible. Counselor Zeth of the warrior clans laughed harshly. "You speak as if these humans possess some kind of mystical power. They're flesh and blood like any other species. How could primitives defeat the Draconian Empire?" "Because," Veltar replied, "they weren't primitives. They only appeared to be." The holographic display shifted once more, this time showing a timeline of human development. "Our analysis suggests that humanity achieved true spaceflight thousands of years before they allowed us to detect it. While we thought they were struggling to reach their moon, they were actually exploring other dimensions, studying forces that we consider theoretical impossibilities." Gasps and skeptical murmurs filled the chamber. "Impossible," Counselor Thane protested. "Our sensors would have detected such technology." "Would they?" Veltar asked. "Our sensors are designed to detect conventional technology, fusion drives, energy weapons, gravitic shields. What if humanity developed along completely different lines? What if they learned to manipulate reality itself rather than simply building better machines?" The display showed theoretical equations and energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. "The evidence suggests that humans discovered how to control fundamental forces that we barely understand. Time, space, probability, dimensional barriers. They turned these into weapons and defenses that exist outside our normal understanding of physics." Counselor Crix's mandibles clicked nervously. "You're suggesting they can alter reality itself?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Veltar replied. "I'm telling you what our best scientists have concluded after 3 centuries of careful analysis. Humanity doesn't fight wars the way we do. They don't build bigger guns or thicker armor. They change the rules of existence itself." The chamber erupted in frightened chatter. The implications were terrifying. If humans could manipulate reality, then no conventional force could stand against them. "But why haven't they expanded beyond their system?" asked Counselor Myra. "If they possess such power, why aren't they conquering the galaxy?" This time, Veltar's response carried a note of genuine respect mixed with fear. "Because they don't need to. Think about it. They have complete control over their local space. Any force that threatens them simply ceases to exist. They have achieved perfect security without having to invade or conquer anyone else. They are content to remain in their forbidden zone, watching the galaxy from afar." "Then why declare their system forbidden?" Counselor Zeth demanded. "Why not simply let other species discover the truth for themselves?" Veltar's prismatic body darkened with what might have been shame. "Because the first time we learned about their capabilities, we tried to form an alliance with them. We sent a diplomatic mission to Earth, hoping to establish peaceful relations with such a powerful species." The High Counselor's voice became barely a whisper. "The entire diplomatic fleet vanished just like the Draconian Armada. That's when we realized the truth. Humans don't distinguish between hostile invaders and peaceful visitors." Anyone who enters their space without permission simply stops existing. The chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. So we declared their system forbidden, not to protect them from us, but to protect us from them. Every few decades, some civilization decides they're powerful enough to challenge the humans. They send their fleets to Earth, confident in their superior numbers or technology. Veltar gestured to the display, which now showed a list of disappeared fleets stretching back centuries. The Korthak Dominion, the Stellar Empire of Andromeda, the Machine Collective, the Void Hunters, all of them sent their greatest fleets against Earth. All of them simply vanished without a trace. Counselor Thane's voice was barely audible. How many ships have they destroyed? Not destroyed, Veltar corrected. Erased. Our calculations suggest that over the past 3 centuries, more than 50,000 warships from dozens of different civilizations have been completely removed from existence after attempting to attack or investigate Earth. The number hit the chamber like a physical blow. 50,000 ships, entire fleets, whole civilizations' military might, simply gone. And now, Veltar continued, the Vorthon Empire has joined that list. 3,000 more ships erased from reality, 3,000 more examples of why no one should approach the Sol system. What do we tell our people? Counselor Thane asked desperately. How do we explain the loss of our greatest fleet? Veltar's response was gentle but firm. You tell them nothing. The families of those lost warriors must never know what really happened. They must believe their loved ones died in some conventional accident, some normal disaster. Because if the truth spreads, if other species learn that humanity can simply erase entire fleets from existence, it will cause galaxy-wide panic. But surely, Counselor Myra protested, if we united all our fleets, combined all our technologies, we could find some way to fight them. The silence that followed her suggestion was deafening. Then slowly, Veltar shook his crystalline head. 3 centuries ago, the entire Galactic Council considered exactly that option. We ran simulations, calculated probabilities, designed strategies. Every analysis came to the same conclusion. He paused, his prismatic body reflecting the chamber's lights in fragmented patterns. Even if we united every ship in the galaxy, even if we brought together all our technologies and all our warriors, even if we attacked Earth with everything we have, the result would be the same. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior would simply cease to exist. Then what do we do? Counselor Crix asked in despair. We do what the Council has done for 3 centuries, Veltar replied. We maintain the Forbidden Zone. We ensure that no one approaches Earth. We protect the galaxy from learning the terrible truth about humanity's power. And if someone else decides to test them, Veltar's prismatic form seemed to dim with resignation. Then they will join the long list of civilizations that discovered too late why Earth is forbidden territory. And we will gather here again, as we have so many times before, to discuss another mysterious disappearance that we can never explain to the survivors. The chamber remained silent for a long moment, each delegate contemplating the horrible truth they now understood. Somewhere in the galaxy, a species of seemingly primitive beings possessed the power to erase entire fleets from existence, and there was absolutely nothing anyone could do about it. Finally, High Counselor Veltar spoke again, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. The vote before us today is simple. Do we maintain the Sol system as forbidden territory, or do we remove the restrictions and allow free access? The vote was unanimous. Not a single delegate, not even Counselor Thane, voted to remove Earth's protected status. As the session ended and delegates began filing out of the chamber, many of them cast nervous glances at the star charts on the walls. Somewhere out there, less than 100 light-years from many of their home worlds, humanity waited in their forbidden zone, watching the galaxy with invisible eyes. And in the depths of space, other civilizations continued their expansion, their wars, their grand plans for conquest, never knowing how close they all lived to a species that could end their existence with a thought. The forbidden zone remained forbidden, and the galaxy slept uneasily, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, humanity watched and waited, ready to defend their small corner of the universe with powers that defied comprehension. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon, Admiral Sarah Chen walked through corridors that officially didn't exist. The hidden facility stretched for kilometers underground, its walls lined with technology that would have seemed like magic to most galactic civilizations. She paused before a massive viewing window that looked out into what appeared to be empty space. But Chen knew better. Through the transparent aluminum, she could see the shimmer of dimensional barriers that surrounded Earth, invisible shields that existed in 17 different realities simultaneously. "Admiral," came a voice behind her. Chen turned to see Dr. Marcus Rivera approaching, his face bearing the tired expression of someone who had been working without rest for days. As humanity's leading expert on dimensional physics, Rivera was one of the few people who truly understood how Earth's defenses operated. "Doctor," Chen nodded. "I assume you're here about the Vorthon incident?" Rivera joined her at the window, his eyes automatically tracking energy patterns that normal humans couldn't see. After decades of working with trans-dimensional technology, his brain had adapted to perceive multiple layers of reality simultaneously. "The cleanup is complete," he reported. "All traces of the Vorthon fleet have been removed from normal space-time. Their quantum signatures have been dispersed across 43 dimensions, making reconstruction impossible even with technology centuries ahead of what they possessed." Chen nodded grimly. She took no pleasure in what had happened to the Vorthons, but Earth's survival had always depended on maintaining absolute security. No one could be allowed to learn the truth about humanity's capabilities and survive to tell others. "Any complications?" she asked. "Minor temporal echoes in dimensions 7 and 12. But we've stabilized those. The Vorthon ships never existed, Admiral. The universe has no memory of them." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching Earth rotate slowly beyond the dimensional barriers. From here, their homeworld looked peaceful and defenseless, exactly as they intended. "Doctor," Chen said eventually, "sometimes I wonder if we've become the monsters we once feared." Rivera considered her words carefully. "Do you remember what Earth was like before the Draconians came, Admiral?" Chen's expression grew distant. Though the Draconian attack had happened 3 centuries ago, every human carried the memory in their genetic code, a deliberate modification to ensure that future generations would never forget the lesson. 7 billion people, she whispered. Completely defenseless. We had nuclear weapons and conventional armies, but against the Draconian fleet, we might as well have been throwing stones. And we tried to surrender, Rivera added quietly. We broadcast messages in every language we could think of, offered them anything they wanted, begged them to spare civilian populations. Chen's jaw tightened. They responded by bombing our major cities as a demonstration of power. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, millions dead in minutes, just to show us they could do it. The memory was painful, even though neither of them had been alive to witness it directly. But humanity's genetic memory preserved every detail of those terrible hours when the species had faced extinction. That's when we learned the truth about the galaxy, Rivera continued. It's not a civilized place full of wise alien species eager to welcome newcomers. It's a hunting ground where the strong prey on the weak, and primitive worlds like ours exist only until someone powerful enough decides to take them. Chen turned away from the window, her expression hardening with resolve. So we chose to become something else. Something that could never be prey again, Rivera agreed. They began walking deeper into the facility, past laboratories where human scientists worked on projects that would have driven lesser minds to madness. Humanity's forced evolution had taken them down paths that no other species had ever dared explore. "Tell me about the new recruits," Chen said as they walked. "Promising," Rivera replied. "The children born this generation are adapting to multidimensional perception even faster than their parents. We have 12-year-olds who can see into parallel realities without technological assistance." This was another part of humanity's transformation that the galaxy would find terrifying if they knew about it. Humans weren't just building impossible technology, they were evolving to use it naturally. Dr. Elizabeth Kane's daughter can apparently perceive up to 9 dimensions simultaneously, Rivera continued, and young Thomas Park has demonstrated the ability to manipulate local spacetime with his thoughts alone. Chen smiled for the first time in days. The next generation will be even better prepared than we were. They entered a vast chamber that served as the facility's command center. Hundreds of technicians worked at stations that monitored every approach to Earth's solar system. Holographic displays showed the positions of every ship within 50 light years, tracked through sensors that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Admiral," called out Commander Jessica Walsh from her station, "we're detecting another probe attempting to enter the outer system. Xylarian configuration appears to be unmanned." Chen walked over to Walsh's station and examined the readings. The probe was small and appeared to be conducting routine scientific observations, but they couldn't take any chances. "Origin?" she asked. "Xylarian Scientific Collective," Walsh replied. "They've been studying stellar phenomena in this region for decades. This probe seems to be investigating the gravitational anomalies we generated during the Vorthan incident." Chen considered their options. The Xylarians were generally peaceful, more interested in scientific discovery than conquest. But they were also incredibly intelligent and observant. If they discovered evidence of what had happened to the Vorthan fleet, they might piece together the truth about Earth's defenses. "Initiate a Class 3 temporal displacement," she ordered. "Make the probe experience a minor navigational malfunction that forces it to return to Xylarian space. Nothing dramatic, just enough to discourage further investigation." "Understood, Admiral," Walsh replied, her fingers dancing across her console. On the holographic display, Chen watched as the Xylarian probe suddenly veered away from Earth's solar system, its instruments detecting what appeared to be a dangerous ion storm that hadn't been there moments before. The probe's automated systems would dutifully record the hazard and recommend that future missions avoid the area. Another potential threat neutralized without violence, without the probe's operators ever knowing they had been manipulated. "Dr. Rivera," Chen said, "I want you to run a full analysis of our dimensional barriers. If the Xylarians detected gravitational anomalies from the Vorthan incident, we may need to adjust our containment protocols." "Already in progress, Admiral," Rivera replied. "Initial results suggest our barriers held perfectly, but the sheer amount of matter we displaced may have created detectable ripples in normal space-time. I'm working on modifications that should prevent future incidents from generating any observable effects." This was the constant challenge of maintaining Earth's security. Every time they were forced to erase an invading fleet, they had to ensure that no traces remained for others to discover. It was a delicate balance between absolute defense and complete secrecy. "Admiral," another technician called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the orbital observatory." Chen moved to the communications station. The orbital observatory was humanity's most advanced monitoring facility, positioned in a fold of spacetime that allowed it to observe galactic activities without being detected. "Put it through," she ordered. The holographic display shifted to show the face of Dr. Angela Torres, the observatory's director. Torres looked excited, which immediately put Chen on alert. "Admiral, we've just intercepted communications from the Galactic Council. They held an emergency session to discuss the Vorthan disappearance. "And?" Chen prompted. "They know," Torres said simply. "Not the details, but they know the Vorthons tried to invade Earth and that we were responsible for their disappearance." A chill ran through the command center. For 3 centuries, humanity had managed to maintain the fiction that their system was simply too dangerous to approach for unknown reasons. If the Council knew the truth— "How much do they know?" Chen asked. Torres manipulated her controls, bringing up intercepted Council communications. "They have a fairly accurate understanding of our capabilities, at least in general terms. They know we can erase entire fleets from existence, that we've been doing it for centuries, and that conventional weapons are useless against us." "But they're not planning any action against us," Rivera observed, studying the data. "No," Torres agreed. "In fact, they just voted unanimously to maintain Earth's forbidden status. They're more terrified of us than ever." Chen felt a mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that humanity's security was intact. Sadness that their relationship with the galaxy remained one of fear rather than cooperation. "There's something else, Admiral," Torres continued. "Our deep space monitors have detected increased military activity in several sectors. It appears that knowledge of our capabilities is spreading beyond the Council, and some civilizations are beginning to develop contingency plans." This was exactly what Chen had feared. As long as Earth remained a mysterious forbidden zone, most species would avoid them out of superstition or caution. But if word spread that humans possessed technology capable of erasing fleets from existence, some civilizations might decide that Earth represented too great a threat to be allowed to exist. "What kind of contingency plans?" she asked. Torres brought up tactical displays showing ship movements throughout local space. "The hegemony of Korath has begun constructing what appears to be a massive shipyard in the Vega system. Intelligence suggests they're planning to build a fleet unlike anything seen before. Millions of ships, all expendable drones controlled by AI. "They think they can overwhelm us with numbers," Rivera muttered. "Send so many ships that even we can't erase them all." "The Stellar Confederacy is taking a different approach," Torres continued. "They're attempting to develop dimensional weapons based on theoretical physics. Their scientists believe they can create weapons that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously." Chen studied the intelligence reports with growing concern. For 3 centuries, humanity's defense strategy had relied on remaining mysterious and avoiding direct confrontation with the galaxy's major powers. But now it seemed that strategy was beginning to break down. "Admiral," Commander Walsh called out urgently, "we have a situation developing in the outer system." Chen turned to see new contacts appearing on the holographic displays, not approaching Earth, but taking up positions at the edge of the solar system. The ships were small and appeared to be scientific vessels, but their positioning was clearly deliberate. "Identification?" Chen demanded. "Multiple species," Walsh replied. "We have Zephyrian research vessels, Velnari observation platforms, and what appears to be a Terrellian science station. They're maintaining position just outside our usual response perimeter." Chen realized what was happening. The galaxy's major civilizations were beginning to study Earth's defenses more systematically, trying to understand the limits of humanity's power. They were being careful not to trigger a response, but they were gathering data. "They're probing us," Rivera said, reaching the same conclusion. "Testing our reaction times, mapping our defensive perimeters, analyzing our energy signatures. And if they learn enough about how our defenses work," Chen began. "They might find a way to counter them," Rivera finished. For the first time in 3 centuries, Chen felt genuinely worried about Earth's security. Humanity's defenses were incredibly powerful, but they weren't unlimited. If the entire galaxy united against them with full knowledge of their capabilities, the outcome would be uncertain. "Initiate Protocol 7, she ordered. "Begin preparations for total system isolation." The command center erupted in controlled activity as technicians began implementing humanity's most extreme defensive measure. Protocol 7 would cut Earth's solar system off from normal space-time entirely, creating an isolated pocket dimension where they could exist safely but completely apart from the rest of the galaxy. It was a last resort that they had hoped never to use, because once implemented, there would be no going back. Humanity would be safe, but they would be alone forever. "Admiral," Dr. Rivera said quietly, "are you sure about this? Protocol 7 means abandoning any hope of peaceful contact with other species." Chen looked around the command center at the faces of her people, humans who had dedicated their lives to protecting their species from a hostile galaxy. They deserved better than eternal isolation, but they also deserved to survive. "Doctor," she said finally, 300 years ago our ancestors made a choice. When faced with extinction, they decided to become something that could never be destroyed, no matter the cost. That choice saved our species, but it also made us into something the galaxy fears." She gestured toward the displays, showing the alien research vessels studying their defenses. "Now we face another choice. We can remain in normal space and eventually face the combined might of every civilization in the galaxy. Or we can step outside of reality itself and ensure our absolute safety." "But we'll be alone," Rivera protested. Chen smiled sadly. "Doctor, we've been alone for 3 centuries. The only difference now is that we're finally admitting it." As the preparations for Protocol 7 continued around them, Chen returned to the viewing window overlooking Earth. Her homeworld continued its peaceful rotation, unaware that its defenders were about to make a decision that would separate humanity from the rest of the universe forever. But perhaps, Chen thought, that was how it was meant to be. Humanity had evolved beyond what they once were, becoming something that existed outside the normal rules of the galaxy. Maybe it was time to accept that evolution completely. The Forbidden Zone was about to become truly forbidden, not just dangerous to approach, but impossible to find. And humanity would continue to watch over their small corner of existence, alone but undefeatable, the guardians of a secret that the galaxy would never understand. In the depths of space, the alien research vessels continued their observations, unaware that they were about to witness the disappearance of an entire star system. And when Sul vanished from the galaxy's maps, taking its mysterious defenders with it, the universe would become a slightly less dangerous place for everyone else. But somewhere, in a dimension that existed beyond the reach of normal physics, humanity would endure, waiting, watching, and ready to defend themselves against any threat that might somehow find a way to reach them in their perfect isolation. The Forbidden Zone would become a legend, a cautionary tale told by civilizations that barely remembered why certain coordinates on their star maps were marked with warnings no one quite understood anymore. And Earth would spin on, safe and alone, just as humanity had chosen to be.